Hey, my name's Jason Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to talk about the controversial topic of rent control. It sounds so easy. Let's control rent and let's make rental properties more affordable for people. Well, that has already been tried in some countries. It's been tried in New York, it's been tried in Ireland, and more recently it's been tried in Scotland, who phased it out but are also bringing it back. So in this video, I'm going to talk about rent controls. Does it work? Doesn't it work? Obviously, tenants want it to happen, but in hindsight, maybe some areas where it's already happened, the tenants would wish that it didn't happen at all in the first place. So we're going to talk about all of that and more. If you're new around here and you haven't done already, do join us on our journey of spreading all the latest property news. We're 45,000 strong now, and you can join us easily by smashing subscribe and hitting that bell notification. You'll get all the latest house price news, interest rate news, property investing news, and much, much more. And I'd ask if you can do me a quick favour to help me get some more views on this video, and that's by smashing like, tickling like, doing something to the like button. That helps with the YouTube algorithm, and that really does help the channel grow. So thanks to everyone that takes a minute to do that. So, rent controls. Seems so easy. Rents are rising at a very alarming rate. People can't keep up with it. So let's just cap the rent. But is that fair on the landlords? Well, you could easily argue, yes, it is fair and people shouldn't be profiting off property. That's a very straightforward, easy argument. But what if you do control the rents and landlords quit? Well, I'm going to tell you what happens, and we've got a recent case study on where that's happened as well. So why are we even having this discussion? Well, over the last few years, rents have gone up at an alarming rate. In some areas last year, rents were up more than 10%, which is crazy. Now, this year isn't much better. It's slowed down a little bit, but it's still above inflation. And rents at the moment are up 6.7% up on an annual basis when we've just had a massive increase already. And there are pockets of the UK that are hit really, really hard. I'm talking about Wigan and Bolton as two examples. In those areas, just this last couple of years, rents are up 31%. Can you imagine the impact that has? And that's an average in that area. So some people it's gone up more, some people it's gone up less. Over the last few years, 31%. That's just not sustainable. And the Northeast has been really hit really hard. This year, we've got 6.7 across the UK, but in the Northeast, the average increase is 9.7%. That's a huge area of land where people are getting massive rental increases. And so eventually, this has got to stop. An activist group, Generation Rent, they are getting publicity on this and they're pushing and lobbying the government to put rental caps on. Now, it just sounds so easy. You put a rent cap on, that means people can now afford rents. But what happens? How does this really work? Because we can talk about Scotland, where they recently did this. So during the pandemic, in Scotland, they put rent caps on. Landlords weren't allowed to increase rents above a certain percentage. And what happened was, just before the rent cap came into place, rents spiked. And over a 2-year period, rents for most of Scotland went up 25%, which is a massive increase. And this bill, this rule, this law, the goal of it was controlling rents and bringing rents down. But that's not the only outcome that actually happened in Scotland. In fact, what also happened was lots of landlords quit the market. They felt that they were over-regulated, over-taxed, and that meant that a massive chunk of landlords left the market. In fact, in some areas of Scotland, and we've got landlords that maybe watch this, maybe you're a landlord from Scotland or a tenant from Scotland. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on this, so do comment on this. I've heard and seen this happen a lot, where people in Scotland would list a property for rent in Scotland and get 200 applications. Now, you could be the perfect tenant. You could have a job that you've had for 10 years. You're going to get employment, pay rises, and you're going to pay on time. You're tidy. you don't have pets, you're quiet, the perfect tenant. But in a field of 200 people, it's very, very difficult for you to stand out. And in Scotland, some of the viewings were having 50 people, 60 people, 70 people viewing in conveyor belts of people going through the property all at once. And even if you could afford the property, you wanted the property, it's very hard in Scotland to get those properties. And that's because the rental market shrunk because the amount of landlords quit. Now, those properties don't just disappear, do they? They went to people that wanted to buy the properties. So residential sales did okay for a period of time. But there's still amount of people that want to rent a property, that need to rent a property, that want social housing, that want any type of property, and there isn't enough properties for those people. And that's the problem that you get with rent control. This happened in New York as well. They did this the same. In between tenancies, the rent gets massively increased. That's a real problem. This happened in Dublin as well. And so all the places where you look and rent control has happened, it doesn't really work. So what is the solution? Because rents are out of control, people can't afford them. The problem is to build houses. That's what needs to happen here, because there isn't enough properties. It's supply and demand. Now, if you build more properties, the rents will regulate themselves. If you build more rental properties, that will also work. And I've had a solution that you could use in the northern areas of the UK, for example, where there's still social housing problems and there's still rental problems. It's not just a London thing, but what you could do is you could incentivize landlords to fix the properties in those areas that are dilapidated, that need work on them. So, for example, if you walk down a street in the terraces of Doncaster, in Balby, where I invest, or somewhere near there, you'll see a street with 50 properties that has 2 or 3 empty properties. They're derelict. They've been empty for years. The council's probably not getting council tax from that. They're not getting, and it's probably causing more crime in the area and causing problems. Why not incentivise some landlords to come and fix those properties up? Give them a scheme where they don't have to pay stamp duty on an empty property. If there's a time period where it hasn't had council tax, reduce the stamp duty to 0. Get some landlords in those areas. Get them to fix up the property with their own money. Maybe even say they've got to have it as social housing for 5 years to help the council get some people off the social housing list. By doing that, the whole street improves. Everyone is happy. There's less crime probably in that area as well. And so these are simple things that councils can do. These are simple things that governments could do. But they're not really doing that. What they're doing is pushing landlords out the market. The Renters' Rights Bill is making it more difficult for a landlord to get their property back, making them more frustrated, making them consider leaving the market. 70% want to quit. And that's a problem. And by pushing anti-landlord sentiment and rent controls would be the straw that breaks the camel's back. The rental market would shrink massively. Yes, those properties would go to somebody that wanted to buy them, but you still got the same amount of people that want to rent, and that isn't getting fixed anytime soon. So rent controls are on the agenda. They are being talked about. They are being lobbied, the government, by Generation Rent and Shelter and other places as well, but they're not the solution. I'd like to know what you think is the solution. Do you agree with what I'm saying about no stamp duty on certain areas just to regenerate those areas? Give me a comment below. But also, if you're looking to buy a property, remortgage a property or anything like that, do also, while you're here, make sure you grab our new ebook, Mortgage Secrets, How to Get the Best Deal in 2025. How to find a good broker, how to negotiate the best deal, how to get it to completion. Cover all of that in this free ebook. I'm going to link it in the comments below and in the description. Check it out. And also check out all the other content as well on the channel, including this video right here.